One challenge of being a sessile organism is protecting yourself. Plants can't pick up and run away from herbivores, but they have developed other ways to defend themselves. Some plants have physical defenses, things like thorns, thick bark, or even sticky sap that makes it difficult for herbivores to eat them. Most plants also have some sort of chemical defense. They produce chemicals called defensive compounds that make them taste bad or even make them toxic to animals. For example, the flavor of citrus is actually a plant defensive compound. While humans may love the taste of lemons, most insects avoid it, so it protects citrus fruits from many insect herbivores. Some plant defensive compounds cause a negative reaction in animals. You're probably familiar with poison ivy, which has a special defense against mammal herbivores, causing an itchy rash. But plant defensive compounds can do more than protect the plant. Sometimes they can be used to sound the alarm that herbivores are present. You probably don't think of plants as interacting much with one another, but that's not the case. They're actually sending each other messages in the form of chemicals. And in some cases, they can even use these chemicals to communicate with animals. Let's look at an example of how this works. Imagine a caterpillar starts feeding on a plant. In response, that plant starts releasing chemicals into the air. Nearby plants detect these chemicals and receive the message that there's an herbivore coming. They respond by boosting their defensive compounds to better defend themselves. But I mentioned that sometimes these chemicals can also be used to communicate with animals. Well, that process starts the same way. The plant notices it's being eaten and starts releasing chemicals into the air. Parasitoid wasps, which lay their eggs in caterpillars, detect those chemicals and are drawn into the plant. They then parasitize the caterpillar and weaken or kill it, protecting the plant in the process. We mentioned that citrus flavor comes from a plant defensive compound, but there are many other flavors we love that are also produced by the plant to deter things from eating it. Spicy flavors, like in hot peppers, are supposed to deter mammals, and many herbs, like mint, produce those chemicals to deter insect herbivores. We also take advantage of many plant defensive chemicals to produce medicines, pesticides, and other products. Nicotine is produced by tobacco plants to protect it from insect herbivores. We've taken nicotine and used it to create the neonicotinoid pesticides, so we can use tobacco's defense to protect other crops. Similarly, salicylic acid, which is found in many skincare products, is produced by willow trees to protect them from insects. Salicylic acid is also chemically similar to aspirin, so willow bark used to be used as a mild pain reliever. The cannabinoids found in cannabis are also produced as a plant defense against herbivores. However, we found that those chemicals can be used to treat pain and anxiety. Similarly, the opiates are pain relievers that are derived from opium, a chemical defense in poppies. So plants are very well protected against herbivores by chemicals. However, some herbivores have developed immunity to the defensive compounds of certain plants. Milkweed and monarchs are an example. Milkweed is toxic to most animals, but monarch caterpillars have evolved to be able to eat it. By eating this otherwise toxic plant, the monarch caterpillar doesn't have to compete with many other insects for food. Now pause the video and answer this question. But this doesn't happen overnight. Plants and their herbivores are waging a constant evolutionary battle. Plants want to defend themselves so they don't get eaten. And of course, the herbivores want to eat those plants. To defend themselves, the plants evolve defensive chemicals. Eventually, some herbivores adapt and develop immunity to those chemicals and continue eating the plant. So then the plants need to evolve new defensive chemicals. And this back and forth struggle has taken place over hundreds of thousands of years. Because of this, many herbivores, and especially insect herbivores, only eat one or a few plant species. They can only eat the plants they have evolved with because they have evolved that immunity to those defensive compounds. The result is that plants and their herbivores, as well as their pollinators, often have very close relationships. Many herbivores only eat a narrow selection of plants. And likewise, many pollinators only collect floral rewards from a few species. So for these animals, if their host plant isn't present, there's nothing for them to eat. So for an ecosystem to function well, animals need to have the right host plants, the ones they evolved with, in their environment. Unfortunately, most of the plants we use in gardens here in the US are not native, but were brought from other areas of the world. So these plants often don't provide many resources for animals. This has led to a movement to improve habitat by gardening only with plants that are native to the area.